Guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1947's Christmas movie, The Bishop's Wife, starring Cary Grant, Loretta Young and David Niven. Now, directed by German filmmaker Henry Koster, it's the story of an angel arriving on Earth to help a preacher who's having a hard time funding a new cathedral, the stresses of which are affecting his family life. Now, you would ordinarily be grateful for some heavenly assistance, but when said angel arrives in the form of Cary Grant and charms his way into the affections of your wife and young daughter, jealousy may sneak in too. So if you think the plot of The Bishop's Wife sounds at all familiar, that's because A League of Their Own and big director Penny Marshall helmed a remake in 1996 titled The Preacher's Wife, and this starred Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston. But almost 50 years previous to that, we got this festive classic that was originally going to be directed by William A. Seater, with, amazingly, Cary Grant as the bishop and David Niven as the angel. But when legendary producer Samuel Goldwyn replaced the director with Henry Koster, this new director switched the roles and it was the right call. I'll explain. Let's take a look. Alright, so The Bishop's Wife has down-in-the-dumps Bishop David Niven, letting life get to him despite having a lovely young daughter and being married to Loretta Young. You see, the thing is, he's obsessed with building a big fancy new church, which is being financed by Gladys Cooper, whose demands put more and more pressure on the poor guy. So, like any self-respecting bishop would do, he says his prayers and, lo and behold, the smooth as silk Cary Grant arrives from upon high to charm everyone, but Niven's grumpy and jealous bishop.
Who told you I asked for help?
Well, you were known to be a good man, Henry, and you were heard. I was instructed to come here in answer to your prayer.
Who are you?
I'm an angel.
I beg your pardon?
So the story is essentially an unspoken romance between the bishop's wife and the visiting angel. Now, obviously, this being a more wholesome time when the production code wouldn't directly allow any dilly-dally between a married woman, married to a bishop no less, and one of God's employees. So it's all played ever so subtly.
I'm tired of an existence where one is neither hot nor cold, hungry nor full.
No, you must go away and never come back.
Now, what I love about The Bishop's Wife and Cary Grant's angel, Dudley, is that he goes around and performs all of these small miracles for the good people that he meets, providing expert Christmas tree decorating and never-ending refills of sherry for Monty Woolley's professor with some nifty Jedi mind tricks.
In the course of lectures I gave at the University in Vienna, all my pupils heard me. Now I'm certain this fellow's an imposter.
Oh, that book. I thought you'd finished that years ago.
I'll tell you about my book.
But what's really great is that Cary Grant plays the angel Dudley with a bit of an edge to him. He doesn't treat Niven's bishop with kid gloves and is quite stern with him. And of course, he spends quite a bit of the film with his wife being exactly the kind of man that she wishes a husband would be.
I see a great deal of happiness. I see a woman who's adored. I see a rich, full life.
Do you see Henry's new cathedral?
No, that's not very clear. There's kind of a fuzziness about that.
Now, it's an interesting direction for the film to go in, with Dudley showing more and more interest in Julia and less interest in answering the prayer that obviously brought him to Earth. But of course, this is a Christmas movie made in the 40s, so it can't be too morally ambiguous. And it is, of course, all part of the bigger picture, and although you may guess at how this all works out, it may not be exactly as you'd think.
Because you're a thief, trying to steal my wife, my child, my all, the love that belongs to me.
Don't you realize, Henry, that as an angel I could quite possibly destroy you with a bolt of lightning?
I don't care. Julia means more to me than my life. I'm not going to lose her.
Now, there's an important subplot regarding Gladys Cooper's rich church benefactor, Agnes Hamilton, that I won't spoil as it's pivotal in the direction of the movie. So, The Bishop's Wife for me is a genuine Christmas classic because it's doused in that festive atmosphere. And there's not as many of those films as you think. Many of them have a Christmassy element to them, but this one has its snowy setting and Christmas decorations in little shops, and it's great use of the Mitchell Boy Choir, who appeared in dozens of movies and TV shows throughout the 40s and 50s. Now, the rest of the music in the film, incidentally, is from composer Hugo Friedhofer, who sadly is an unsung hero of 30s and 40s and 50s cinema. Scrolling his IMDb credits will probably astonish you. Now, elsewhere, there's a great central ice skating sequence. You probably couldn't have a Christmas movie in this era without an ice skating sequence. But here, Cary Grant teaches James Gleason's lovable cabbie Sylvester to glide across the ice.
Oh, don't leave me! Don't!
So this was Cary Grant a year after being in Hitchcock's Notorious, and made in his comedy romance era. Now, I've read that people aren't keen on his performance here and that he's miscast, but I think a handsome, charming, firm but fair heavenly helper suits him well.
What do you propose to do? Perform a miracle?
If necessary.
Well, why don't you? Why don't you create the cathedral with one wave of your hand?
You wouldn't want me to do that, would you? How would you explain it?
Well,
Tell the world you're being visited by an angel.
And now David Niven, of course, who became well known for the Pink Panther series, plays the at his wits' end clergyman so well that you can't imagine the pair having previously been in each other's roles. Now, Loretta Young, as the titular bishop's wife, brilliantly rounds out the trio. I won't pretend to know a great deal about her, in all honesty. I've seen her in a Night to Remember and Orson Welles' The Stranger. And she did win an Oscar this year, but not for this film, for The Farmer's Daughter, which I haven't seen. So yeah, despite the original director being kicked off the project, with the producer reviewing some early footage and not liking what he saw, thus leading to the cast getting swapped about, ultimately for the better, in my humble opinion, and it not being initially well received, and you have to remember that the previous year's It's a Wonderful Life was also not initially a hit. Like that film, it's more than grown into its own as yet another classic movie from the 40s. And yeah, if you haven't guessed, the whole thing's Christmassy as hell, and you need to get it onto your rotation of festive viewing instead of Home Alone 6 or whatever it is. Now, The Bishop's Wife is one of about 4 or 5 Christmas masterworks from the 1940s and 1950s. Think The Shop Around the Corner, White Christmas, and of course It's a Wonderful Life. Now, these are the movie versions of those old Christmas songs from the 60s and 70s that they just don't seem to make anymore. Is it overly sentimental? Absolutely. Is it covered in schmaltz and dipped in cliché? 100% it is. But then it just wouldn't be Christmas without it. Go check it out.
All right. Supposing I told you I came from another planet, would you believe me?
I don't know.
I'd believe you, Dud.
And you'd be right, Julia, as always. We all come from our own little planets. That's why we're all different. That's what makes life interesting.